And welcome to the Sharkbone Podcast. This is Pod Chatter episode number 10, being recorded on Thursday, December 3rd, 2015. My name is Devin, and it appears that I'm flying solo tonight. My co-host, Christopher, was supposed to be here, but I haven't heard from him. I don't know what's going on. So hopefully he will be joining shortly. He's been invited. And hopefully, if he's not able to join us, we'll have some viewers that participate using the Q&A app. You can submit questions or comments there that we can discuss that way. I don't think I've ever done a live pod or a solo podcast before. It should prove to be interesting. But anyway, the topic tonight is play aids, and we will get to that in a little bit, or I will get to that. Like I said, I don't know where my co-host is. There he is. Perfect timing, sir. Are you muted? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. You're muted. What's going on, Christopher? Well, tonight's just all sorts of technical issues. I tried to launch it a couple times, and the Google Talk plugin crashed. So now we can't hear Christopher. I don't know what's going on there. No, you're still muted, man. I don't know what's going on. Exactly. Hi, viewers. I see we've got two of you. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully, you can be patient while we figure out whatever's going on Christopher's end. Nope, nothing. Maybe if you leave and come back in, it'll fix it. That always seems to fix it. Oh, my goodness.
Haha, I figured it
I hear
out.
noise. Perfect.
All right. Yeah, I had I've been doing tests on my computer for doing a workaround to play music on my computer and have it get piped into the Hangout. So I had my input for Google Hangouts to not microphone because I had my microphone going someplace else and then being redirected to Google Hangouts when it was pulling the audio from my
that would do it.
my other apps. So everything was going here and then into Hangouts. And I went in and I was like, all right, I need to make sure that I'm in the right spot. And I changed my system preferences, but I didn't change Hangouts preferences. So I had to go in and fix that. So we're good.
Good, because we're already broadcasting.
I noticed that. It says right there in the corner.
Yep. I've got a little bit of an echo on your end.
Of course there's an echo. Hold on. Better?
And I don't know. Yes, I think so.
Shoot.
I can still hear
you. I can't hear you. Hold on. Okay.
And I got the echo back again.
You got the echo back?
Yep.
Oh my goodness, what is going on?
I think the sound is traveling through the cord from your headphones to the mic. I think that's what's going on.
Alrighty.
But anyways.
Should I be recording on my end again?
No, we've had enough technical difficulties for tonight,
okay.
So I'm just gonna rip it from the Hangout Live. But hey, tonight we're talking about play aids. You know, things you use at the table to make the game more awesome. But before we kick it off, I want to give a personal thank you to all the Patreons who are supporting, or all the patrons who are supporting the show over on Patreon. So that's a big thank you out to Kentrell Brown, Lucas, Jeff Donahue, Matthew Johnson, the RPG Academy, Colin Matter, Benjamin Hinham, and Ricardo Ochoa. You guys are a big motivation to
Y'all
make
are
this.
rock stars.
Yes. And you help make this show as awesome as I can make it. So, as far as announcements go, I really don't think I have any announcements.
I sort of have one.
Oh, nice. What do you got?
I was at my mom's house today, helping her out with some computer problems and whatnot. And we were talking, and she was asking, are you podcasting tonight? I'm like, yeah, I'm podcasting. She's like, all right, so how do I listen to these podcasts you guys are putting out? So I helped my mom get subscribed to the Sharkbone podcast on her iPhone.
Awesome.
So if you make it this far, Mom, hi. And if you don't, bye, I guess.
Hi, Mom. That's funny. I don't know if we've ever had a Hi Mom event.
So this is my first Hi Mom event on live internet land.
Live internet land. And speaking of live internet land, all you viewers, you can use the Q&A app to submit questions for us to answer. But before we go, we don't have any currently, so I think we can go ahead and kick right into the discussion for tonight.
Okay. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Well, this was your topic suggestion, so why don't you go ahead and kick it off? Once again, we're talking about play aids, things and tools that you can use at the table or the digital table to make your games more awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I do most of my gaming via Google Hangouts nowadays, so most of my tools are in the computer space.
I like digital tools. I do.
But back when I had a physical local group that I actually went to someone's house and met with, my iPad was like the best thing since sliced bread. Because regardless of what game we were playing, there's always GM screens to be found. And while I enjoyed them back in the day, I find the screen to be too much of a my zone, your zone. And like players are like, oh, the DM's rolling their dice behind the screen, so we don't know what's going on. I prefer more of an open, so I roll my dice in the open. I let players know what difficulties are before they roll, because that's kind of the GM I am. So with my iPad, especially with the smart case or the smart cover, it takes up so little room at the table. It's just a slight incline, so I can see what's on the iPad. If I have an adventure that I'm running from it, or if the GM screen is on there and I can swipe back and forth from the pages, but it doesn't put this barrier between me and the players, and it's just inconspicuous and doesn't take up much room. It's one of my favorite face-to-face gaming tools. And heck, when I do things online, I usually have my iPad set up next to my screen, and I've got my PDF up of the game rules. Depending on what I'm playing, if I've got the adventure or whatever on that, I've got that on the iPad, and then I've got the actual game itself on the screen in front of me.
Yeah, I like having those digital documents right there for reference. I've actually done. I don't generally use a PDF on my tablet at the gaming table. It's usually up on my computer, just because there's enough real estate on the monitor, I guess, for me. But what I've done with the tablet before is when I have important notes that I want to reference, I make like a hyperlinked document or an HTML web page with like just a bunch of hot links on it of things that I want to be able to reference quickly. So I can just pull up that document, hit it, and it takes me right to my notes. And I've got everything I need right there without having to try and find it in a PDF, because sometimes those PDFs are pretty heavy when it comes to memory. Talking about that, William Keller has put a question over on the Q&A app. He said he started looking at MS OneNote as a GM aid. Does that make him a bad person?
I I work for Apple, so I'm contractually obligated to say yes.
I don't know anything about MS OneNote. I've never used it. But I'll say no. That doesn't make you a bad person. You know, it's those other choices that make you a bad person.
Yeah, I mean, for my personal opinion, I started using Evernote for my gaming notes, which, from what I understand, is MS OneNote is very similar. It's just Microsoft's branding of it. So if you want to use that, that's cool. There are a lot of other options available. Like I said, I started with Evernote, but Google Docs is amazing. And Devin, like you said, just writing up quick hyperlinked documents. I myself do layout. So I have this program that I can do, and I just throw it right up there and creates hyperlinks and gets everything where it needs to go. So I can create a PDF right quick of whatever I need. So find what works for you and go with it.
You know, one thing that I was using for quite a while, because it was very lightweight and very easy to use across all my devices, was just simple text documents synced through my Dropbox account.
Yeah.
So then I had them on my phone, I had them on my tablet, I had them on my computer. If it was in a shared folder, everyone else had it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that was awesome.
Yeah,
Uh,
I do a lot of multi markdown for my rough draft layouts and such, and that's just that. It's plain text, so no matter where I'm at, what device I'm on, I can read it no problem.
Yeah. Oh, the wonders of plain text. I love it.
Love it.
So
we're strange individuals.
my podcasting notes are on the right side of my screen in plain text.
Nice.
My very first play aid that I wanted to talk about was the initiative counter or the initiative tracker.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen all those really cool, awesome magnetic ones where you have the magnetic strips that you can write the player's name on and stick it on there. I
had one of those for a while.
They're nice. Yeah, I made one. It's not magnetic, but it was just a sheet of really thin wood, and then I burned a bunch of numbers into it. And then I just got those circular glass kind of beads that are flat on one side.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found out that you can write on them in permanent marker. So I'd write the character's name on that. And then I'd just move them around on the numbers up or down, depending on whatever initiative they had. And then because it was glass, the permanent marker would rub off with just a little bit of effort. And then I could repurpose it to be for whoever I needed it to be.
Nice.
But, man, that initiative tracker just made things go so much smoother.
Yeah, funny story actually about initiative trackers. I recently read an article by the Angry GM about how I don't know if any of our listeners are familiar with the Angry GM, but he's kind of a caricature of that guy. You know, always telling everyone how his advice is the best, and you know, if you're not doing it his way, you're doing it wrong. So it's not who he is; it's just the persona that he puts forth for his his online identity. And he was talking about how to manage combat like a motherfucking dolphin. Which is the actual title of the article.
I don't think I've read that one.
The idea being that dolphins jump out of the water, get their shit done, they go back down. Jump up real quick, get their shit done, go back down. So you have to do that when you're down in the water. You're smooth sailing, going quickly, just getting things done. You come up for a really quick breath, and then you're back into the game. And he had a part of it was saying how using the initiative trackers with the magnets and everything are such a horrible thing. If you can't do it my way, you're stupid. And he just lays out this really great way of how he's been doing it forever with just taking a piece of paper.
Okay.
And then just saying arbitrarily, initiative slot 1 is at the bottom of the sheet of paper. Initiative slot, depending on what the initiative bonuses are, if your players, it could be 20, it could be 40, whatever at the top. So just say, go around the table, ask for initiative numbers, and just put them wherever they would fall within the piece of paper within your 0 and whatever the upper bounds is, depending on your player's initiative bonuses. It's a really good read. I'll make sure that
I copied
there's a link in the show notes.
the link you provided me, so it's in my
Yeah.
notes now. I listened to his interview with Jim from Talking Tabletop today. That was
Who is
really
also
good
a member of
episode.
the RPG Academy Network.
Yes, there's our RPGA plug for this for this episode. Awesome. So, what other play aids do you think are particularly good? And viewers, if you have any play aids that you think are awesome, make sure you throw them in the Q&A app. I'd like to see what you guys like.
Yeah. This might sound a little funny being considered a play aid, but dice. I like my physical dice. There's just something about rolling them and hearing them clatter and, doing all that physical stuff as opposed to just clicking some keys on my iPhone or my iPad or my Android phone. So just like the physical dice themselves. We got a question. Initiative counters, what are they? Is the question.
Yes.
Initiative counters are various tools that you use for keeping track of initiative. The one that Devin was talking about, I think Pathfinder put it out. It's just this like 6-inch tall, 3 or 4 inch wide piece of heavy board, like heavy cardboard, and it's magnetic. So you write player names on these player magnets, or really small monster names on monster magnets, and then when it comes time to roll initiative, you just arrange the magnets, so then you can just go down the line of, this person's initiative, this person's initiative. It's just a way of keeping track of who's done what initiative score.
Yeah, they're a physical object where you can keep track of all the different players and monsters and GM initiatives with usually movable tokens for the actual players, so you don't have to like scratch out that part of your sheet and rewrite the initiative order again.
Yeah. Trying to think of other initiative trackers that I've used.
Well, there's some online digital ones too, and they're nice. I mean, you type in the initiatives and it automatically orders them from lowest to highest, or from highest to lowest, however you ask for it. All right, so you were talking about dice. I've got to say, I like big dice. I cannot lie. It's dice are nice.
They are nice.
You gotta enjoy dice.
Okay. This is the first time we've actually had people participating, so it's kind of cool. We'll just go back to Crystal real quick then. Erzik, assuming that's how your name is pronounced, and I apologize if I'm butchering it, but Crystal, when I'm saying 40 plus initiative, I used to play a lot of 4E. So, when you hit higher levels, you could have an initiative bonus of, plus 15. So when you're rolling a D20, you could have up to 35. And, the rogue who specialized in dexterity with the improved initiative feed could probably get like a 46 by mid-levels. So initiative 40 plus is just the result of their initiative roll, and dex-based initiative monkeys could get really freaking high really freaking quick.
Yeah, different games use different initiative systems. So depending on what initiative the game in question uses, the initiative trackers may or may not work. Like it might be more problematic for like Shadowrun, which has multiple initiative passes. So you can be running through initiative 2 and 3 times, and people might have just 1 action, 2 actions, or 3 actions. So it can definitely be, initiative trackers might not work for everything, but I think they're a handy tool.
And Jack actually found the initiative tracker that we're talking about for Pathfinder Combat Pad. I don't know if anyone, I'm assuming everyone else can see the questions as they're being written. So go ahead and take a look at it, and that will probably better explain it than I did.
Yeah. Man, it's cool seeing all these people I know watching. That's awesome.
Yep.
I used
And
to game
we've got
with Jack. I game with Crystal right now.
nice.
Very cool. All right, so what's the next play aid that you want to talk
Well, we've
about?
got William and Erzik. I really
Yeah.
apologize. Talking about
I'm-
TiddlyWiki. I'm paying attention to the Q&A. At
That's
least someone
good.
is, right?
We should be. I'm sitting here reading it, but I totally spaced it.
TiddlyWiki is a single HTML file wiki that's designed for really for personal wiki stuff, but you go to their website, they've got a lot of stuff. It's really cool, very interactive. So you click on a link, it opens up like a new box beneath the one that you have. So you can have all these different boxes open there. So instead of having like 8 or 10 tabs open, they're just boxes all in line. But as William said, you can you have to transfer between devices. There's some finagling you can do to host it on Dropbox and access it, and then but you have to be able to have read-write permissions and to be able to modify it on the go. And in order to modify it on your home computer, you have to go through all this rigmarole because you're modifying the HTML, and you have to do a save as or something. It's kind of
A pain.
It can be, yeah.
Technical.
Right.
But as far as using wikis, I love using wikis for campaign prep. I think if wikis were easier to have between multiple devices, wikis would be the only thing I used.
Well, City of Brass is an RPG Academy affiliate website that
It
they
is.
do wiki. I've been using them for a while just for my personal use. I don't currently have a game that I'm running, but as soon as I do, I'm going to start using that for showing off all the cool things it can do. And Lucas, who was on our last episode, he's actually one of the 2 developers on City of Brass, and it's badass.
Is it?
Yeah, it's designed specifically because it's HTML, so it's a web page. There's no app. There's no it's not Flash. There's no Silverlight. It's none of that crap. It's just straight up HTML, so you can use it on your phone, on your tablet, on your desktop at work, and your desktop at home, assuming that work doesn't block City of Brass, of course.
Man, the more and more I hear about it, the more and more I think I have to give it a shot. I haven't tried it yet, but it sounds like it's got a lot of stuff that I would find useful.
It has a 30-day free trial, and the developers.
Jack says that we could put MediaWiki on a web server and access it from any web-connected device with a browser. Yeah, you could do that. I've done that with DokuWiki, which is the wiki software I've been using for the Sandbox wiki. Yeah, wikis are fun tools, and there are a lot of different things you can do with them. A lot of different wiki software.
Amazing. Just the problem with putting MediaWiki up on your own web server is that not all of us have our own web servers, so sometimes it's easier to use other people's. One thing you could do that's completely free is if you do a Google site, because Google actually you can make websites using their bandwidth and such, and you can do a wiki that way. It's not going to be the prettiest, but it's free. You can make it public so all your players can access it. So there's no fees associated, but you're limited by what they have for you, as opposed to, if you're going to put up your own wiki on your own website, your own hosting space, you can customize it, from here to eternity, which is a benefit as well as a downside, because if you're trying to make everything look so pretty, you're more worried about the presentation than the actual content, which I'm sure we've all been there, done that, right?
Who hasn't? There are some times where I'm like, I just got to go in and make one quick change to the podcast website. It's just one quick thing. And then make the
2 hours
change.
go by.
Don't like it. Yeah, 2 hours go by. And I'm like, oh man, I didn't want to spend 2 hours on that. But yeah, end up doing it sometimes. So what else do you have?
Physical tokens at the table, because
Oh,
I play a
yes.
lot of Fate, so having actual physical poker chips. Wiki what? There's Wikia. Oh yeah, Wikia. I didn't know that Wikia was you could do your own personal stuff that way, but Wiki is a good
Yeah.
alternative.
Jack suggested Wikia, however you say it. I don't know how to say it.
I pronounce it Wikia because it's a wiki.
It's a Wikia. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
buy it. So
but
tokens at the table.
I play Fate, so we have Fate points. So you have, I use actual poker chips. So you have your stack of Fate points. We play Cortex Plus. You have plot points. Even Shadow of the Demon Lord has Fortune, and D&D 5e has something similar.
Inspiration, isn't it?
Inspiration. I don't know. I don't play 5e, but they have something similar. And Savage Worlds, you have Bennies. Trying to think of what other games. Hero Points. A lot of different
We don't
games
need
have.
to name off all
Yeah.
of the points we could possibly use.
Yeah,
But
the
I like
idea of
having
having,
tokens as well.
yeah, so having
They're
that
really cool
physical
because
thing.
then you can throw them back and forth. We back with the original show, we talked about cool points, which was basically a Benny or a plot point or fate point that the players had to throw to the other players. And
Mm-hmm.
so at the beginning of the game, the GM would give us a single poker chip that sat on our character sheet. That was our cool point to give out. So whenever someone did something cool, you take it off your character sheet and you toss it across the table and say, dude, that was awesome. Here's a cool point.
I've used that a few times, and I had no idea where that came from, but it must have been from you guys.
Well, Jarvis was the one who brought it up for discussion on the show, and he got it from somewhere else. I don't know where he got it from, but all these ideas just float around everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
And going off of the idea of poker chips is having physical cards.
Oh, yes.
Especially when I was playing 4E. We made power cards for all the players because even the fighter had magic spells that he could use with his sword. But if you're playing Star Wars game, you force powers, even just pieces of equipment and gear like your starship or your super uber mega customized blaster rifle. I call her Vera. But having that physical representation of, this is the stuff that I have. So if you have all of your gear as cards, you can be like, all right, here's what's in my backpack. And you have like 4 or 5 cards. Here's what's in my spell pouch. Here's what's in this bag. Here's what's there. So you actually have that physical representation of what you're carrying around with you. I always enjoyed handing those out. And it's really great for, you open up the treasure chest or you dig around in the footlocker. Well, here, let me show you what you find. And you hand out, treasure cards and equipment cards saying this is the stuff that you're finding in the place you're looking.
That's awesome. Now that makes me want to cut the cards in the shape of whatever treasure they're getting and then write the name of it on there. And here you go. But then I would eventually have to upgrade to what the crafty DM did.
Yes.
With the actual little treasure chest.
And
so
that was also one of Jim's Talking Tabletop episodes.
Mm-hmm. That was with Emily from the SAS Geek podcast.
Yep, we'll have to put a link to Jim's podcast in our show notes.
Oh man, yeah, he owes us a lot of advertising money now.
Well, he's giving us 50% of his advertising revenue right now.
That's true. So the talking about cards, one of the other things that I really like are really small dry erase boards at the table. I've seen them at a teaching supply store. That there are a couple of them around town, but they're about I want to say maybe a 5x8 or a 4x6 card, and it's a dry erase board. You know, it's the typical kind of what is it called? I don't know. It's a hard kind of paperized board.
Hmm.
And so you can get a bunch of them fairly inexpensively. And then if you have a complication or an aspect that needs to be put on the scene, just write it right there. Put that in the center of the table. The cool thing is that they're erasable. And so you're not going to be wasting a bunch of index cards or post-it notes, because
Nice.
creating extra paper trash just really irritates me. So I don't like
Yeah.
using index cards or post-it notes for things that are really disposable. But then another cool thing about them is that if you have enough of them and you need to make a room or a dungeon or something, then you can do it piece by piece and then just lay them down like dungeon tiles.
Yeah. Um, there's a company that actually does something similar to that. They have like a bunch of 5x7 index cards that are all laminated
Mm-hmm.
together. I can't remember the name of it.
Well, I think that's another thing you can do as well. I've laminated my own maps before, and lamination of that laminating film, you can dry erase right on that. It'll wipe
Yeah,
right off.
exactly.
It's not going to stain it at all.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, I had fun. My number of years ago, my ex-wife was a teacher, so we got to laminate lots of stuff.
Well, I bought a laminating machine because
Oh,
my
nice.
Etsy shop is doing journals, and so I
Hmm.
laminate the covers now. So
Oh,
we bought a
nice.
laminating machine,
Cool.
and my wife has been going nuts with it. She's turned our son's room into a classroom. She laminates everything and hangs it on the wall.
Excellent.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
So what another thing that I like using at the game table are like minis. So you can have either little actual minis that you paint or that are plastic or whatever, or you can use Lego characters, the minifigs. I mean, or
Yep.
I even just go to the store and I walk around the toy aisle and figure out. Like I was running a Star Wars game a year or so ago, and so I went to the store and I was like, well, there's got to be some really tiny Star Wars toys. So I wandered around and I found these little tiny I think they were called pods, little
Okay.
small figures, all
Right.
plastic. And
Hmm.
so I was like, that's a little smaller than normal, but it'll work. So I got a bunch of those, and then I just had a bunch. I instantly had a bunch of Star Wars minis.
Yeah. Dresden Files game that I played a number of years ago, we all had because at the mall here in Austin, we have a sizable Lego store. So
Mm.
we all had our Lego minifigs set up, customized to look like our characters,
Yeah,
and
that's
they might
awesome.
not be to scale, but it's pretty cool. And Jack was asking if we have used props around the table. Not really. I mean, I did for a little while back in high school when I was running Star Wars D6, because in the GM screen it actually had a printout of a blank data pad and then a bunch of various logos from different corporations and entities within the Star Wars universe. So I used to mix and match and put those together to make props for you for my players. So when they when they decrypted a file, I'd be like, okay, here's what you find on the data pad and whatnot. And so I would, because I was back in late 90s, so I wasn't able to do it all that often, but whenever I had access to a copy machine, because we didn't have scanners back then. It was the 90s. Not everyone had a scanner in their computer room. But I used those a few times. Great effect, but again, lack of access to the appropriate tools made it difficult.
I think that using props in a game kind of changes when you start doing a lot of your gaming digitally, either over Hangouts or Skype or play by post or whatever. But I think
Yeah.
that props can still be used. They're just all digital props. So you've got your character portrait, you've got art you commission an artist to make about your character. You've got sound files that you can
Yeah.
pick up and say, this is my character's theme song, stuff like that. I have used some physical props, probably not as many as I would like to use or would be, really awesome to use. My favorite prop is the harmonica I got for a short-lived Apocalypse World game. I had a driver who was awesome at driving and playing the harmonica. Those were the two things he was good at, because I was like, I really want him to play some musical instrument. I want him to do something other than driving, even though driving is what I want to do. He needs to do something else to do that as well. So I got a harmonica, went down to Guitar Center and picked up a harmonica, started goofing around with it. And I was like, yeah, this is actually kind of fun.
Nice.
I don't think I ever got yelled at for disrupting the game either. It usually just sat on top of my character sheet.
And speaking of music, if done right, music can be a great aid for game sessions, just to get people in the mood. And again, going back to high school when I was playing D6 Star Wars, I had the 5-disc extra special edition for the Star Wars trilogy, because when I was in high school, there were only 3 Star Wars films. Newfangled kids with their 6, soon to be 7. Oh man, I'm so old. But
You're such a grognard.
yeah, and we would play at my buddy's house, and he had a 100 disc changer or whatnot, in a CD player at once, and I memorized the order of what songs on what disc and what track. So whenever we would get to a chase scene, I'd be like, all right, disc 3, track 5, and then we're in a combat scene. All right, disc 1, track 6, or whatever, and was able to use that to great effect. And Devin looks frozen. Uh-oh. Can anybody hear me, or am I totally lost? Woo! Don't know what happened. Okay, so apparently I'm still good, but Devin just got dropped. So I will continue and hope that he rejoins soon. So then we have another question from Crystal about an idea of how to corral or control digital props. That, I think, is something that... Oh, looks like Devin's back. Awesome.
Don't you love those technical difficulties?
Yeah. Okay, so I was just answering Crystal's question about how to corral or control digital props. And I think that would be best taken care of with the social contract. Saying, okay, these digital things are allowed at the table. When you're at the table playing games, put your phone away. Put it on silent, do not disturb, except for the spouse or whatever. tablets are allowed, but only for character sheets. Because a lot of the digital props, it's kind of on an honor system, because everyone's got their smartphones, they've got their tablets, they've got their laptops, and they can do more than just the game. So, and I know I've been guilty of doing other things on my computer or tablet during game time when I probably shouldn't have. But it's something you just have to talk to your group about. It's not something that any specific rule or whatnot can take into account, because even if you put your home Wi-Fi behind a firewall or a password or whatever, people are still going to be able to use their cell data for doing stuff on their phones and tablets. So it's not really much of a barrier. So you just talk to your players and be like, look, I don't appreciate this, or I found it distracting that. So be polite when doing it.
Are we frozen as well?
No, I can see you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
Well, as far as digital props go, I think that every player, and the GM included, should wait until it's their turn for the spotlight in order to share the stuff. Because, I mean, how you wouldn't start talking about what your character is doing while the GM and another player are right in the middle of a scene. You know, that's just not something you would do. So why would you start playing a sound file, or why would you start showing a picture around, or why would you start doing other stuff like that when other people are involved in the game? You know, you should wait until it's your turn, until you've got the spotlight and everyone's looking at you to keep going.
Here's looking at you, kid.
Yeah. All right.
And I did want to touch on another thing real quick about music and sound and such, is that while it's a great aid if done right, don't spend so much time looking for the right track or the right sound effect that you grind the game to a halt. So having background ambient music is great, but oh wait, I have this perfect song for this perfect moment. Hold on, then the game stops, you break immersion, and the momentum that you've built up just dies. So, maybe practice a few times at home by yourself before you do it with the group, or be like, hey, today we're trying something new. If the game starts slowing down because of it, let me know, stop me, so we can keep going instead of, slowing down.
Yeah, you could institute the 60-second rule. If you can't, or 30-second rule, depending on what you want to do in your game. If you can't find it within that time period, we're moving on. Keep trucking. Keep the game rolling. I would say if you don't already have the sound effect or music linked on a document or in a playlist, then don't even bother.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're a player and you can search for it while someone else is doing their action, then that's fine.
Right. I was speaking from a GM standpoint.
A word on music, says Jack.
And while we're waiting for
Maybe
him
he
to give
submitted
us
it too early. What do you think about dice towers?
Jack says, word on music, have it prepped before the game. Totally agree.
Definitely.
Like Devin was saying, have your playlist ready. Or, if you're using, Battle Bard should be coming out with their should be made public the next month. There's Sirenscape, RPG Mute Music. There's a whole host of places, but yeah, have your playlist ready and set up, because when you're in the game, 1, maybe 2 clicks is all it should take, and if you can't do it, don't do it.
Yeah, you don't want to slow down the game for something like that, because music can be really awesome to set the scene, but if you've already got momentum and tension built up, it'll all die while you're looking for that sound file.
Yeah.
So yeah, what about dice towers as play aids?
I've honestly never had the opportunity to use them before.
I've never used a dice tower, but I've used rolling boxes.
Oh yeah, I've
I
used
find those
boxes a
very
lot.
useful.
Yeah, otherwise the dice go all over the place.
It's especially handy when you're gaming online using physical dice.
Yeah, Roll20 has a SoundCloud access. Jack's pointing out, and that I don't use Roll20 because I've never quite figured out how to use it, and I really don't care to because none of the games I run require maps. So I just use Dice Stream, and when I need to draw something, I just do a rough drawing on a Google Draw or whatever.
Yeah.
In a Google Doc, and I just screen share. Be like, all right, this is what you see.
I like Roll20. I've used it before. It's handy. It's got a lot of nice features in it, but it's one of those things that you start focusing on the appearance of the game because it does have that visual factor to it that other situations don't quite have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have considered going back to using it just because of that jukebox thing where you can play a sound file from SoundCloud and it will play it to everyone who's involved in that Roll20 game. That's really cool feature. I wish Google Hangouts had that all by itself. That would be amazing.
Yeah. Well, I figured out how to do it completely for free on my
Oh,
Mac.
yeah, I can do it too. It just means I have to listen to myself through my headphones as well.
Oh no, the workaround that I've been using, I don't hear myself. So what it does is it captures the sound that would normally come out of the speakers. That's not the Google Hangout, like everything else, and then pipes it through Google Hangouts, as well as my headphones. So I can hear the music, y'all can hear the music, but you don't hear yourself, and I don't hear me. It's great.
So you need to
Haven't
write up some instructions that we can put in the show notes.
I
Work.
haven't used it. I haven't used it in the game yet because, like I said, I'm not running anything currently. But I've run two test runs. Actually, William, who's I think still listening in live, watching, helped me with one of them, and it worked out pretty well. So I'm gonna try it in a game sometime soon. Probably not until New Year, but that's the nature of the beast. From now until New Year's, it's just way too busy at work to actually have fun.
You always got to make time for fun.
Well, that's what I'm doing right now. We're having fun,
There you go.
having a blast.
Do you have any more play aids you want to chat about? We've hit all of mine.
Um, Customized character sheets, specifically the ones with the character tents on the top for
With the
when
what?
you're in character tents. So you know when you're at a meeting, I don't know if you do it at your job, but like back in school when you have a substitute teacher, you would be at the first day of
So
class or
basically,
whatever.
like a little name tag, name placard.
Yeah,
Okay.
you take your paper and you'd fold it into a triangle, so you've got the name on one
Mhm.
side. So some character sheets actually have those. They're called character tents, and so you fold up the top of your character sheet, and it has the character name, and it has a few of the more important facets of it. Like for a Fate game, it would have character name, high concept, and trouble. And for other games, whatever they think is the most important things to have. And so when you're around the table with lots of people, you got the character tents, you can just glance at everyone else, and it says so right in front of them what the character name is or what their important stats are, which personally I like to speak to the character and not the player when I'm playing or GMing, to try to stay in game. So I wouldn't talk to Devin. I would talk to you've only ever GM'd for me, Tom. You're in that one game on RPG Gamer Dad. So I wouldn't talk to Devin. I would talk to Tom, even though you were playing Tom. But so it would have that there, so you could more easily identify who's who and what's
Mhm.
what. But again, that works for in person. But if you're doing it over Google Hangouts, you have the lower third, so you can have your character portrait, the character name, on the bottom of your screen, right there.
Yep.
And so I find those extremely helpful because like whenever I'm talking to someone, I'm like, hold on. So I click on their picture down in the Hangouts and then be like, okay, their character name is blah. So that's one of my personal favorites of, it's just makes things easier.
Yeah, I gotta say that having a character portrait that visible, like always right there in front, is amazing for a GM because then I can always remember what their character looks like to figure out how an NPC would react. Because if they're a big barbarian with like blood streaming down one side of their face in their portrait, well, then most NPCs are going to be like, can I help you?
Bye. I need to go
Something?
empty my bowels.
I'm gonna go talk to the city guard because you're freaking me out.
Right.
Whereas if they are a very slight person, then perhaps it won't be that kind of reaction. So I could see a character tent with an attached portrait being very useful.
Anybody else from our audience have any other questions or want to throw something out there for us to chat about? Because I'm
Speak
tapped.
now or hold your peace until the video comes out on YouTube, and then you can say whatever you want in the comments. But no, seriously, if anyone has another play aid that they want to suggest, go ahead, do it now, because we are drawing this one to a close very soon.
Yep.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay. Plaids are good. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to start using more play aids.
That'd be great.
All right, well, I don't see anything coming in.
I'm not seeing anything either.
All right.
I think we've
Then I
either
think...
scared them off or exhausted our. Oh, excellent.
Oh, there we go.
We covered it
Custom
well.
DM screens.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, it just came in. Jack asks if we have had any fun making custom DM screens. I can't say that I've ever used a DM screen, but I have created something similar in the fact that it's, a big cheat sheet. And those have been really fun to make, mostly because I'm trying to fit the maximum amount of information I can into the small space that's available.
I've actually done a few custom gem screens. Trying to find. There we go. Because Savage Worlds has this customizable gem screen, which is a 3-panel. I'm going to throw it in here in the chat real quick. It's a 3-panel empty landscape jam screen. And back when I had local groups, I would make my own inserts for it because it's 8.5 by 11 letter size paper. So you have 3 panels on the inside, 3 on the outside. So you can either have player facing information or just nice pretty pictures. But I had fun making those. I don't really do it anymore with PDFs being so ubiquitous. I just have bookmarks on my PDF. So when I need a specific piece of information, I just click on it and it takes me to that page. So it's not as handy now as it has been in the past. But either way, I do enjoy them. And the official gem screens for most games are great, but they don't always have what I need.
If now I want to run a game in person with something like that, a GM screen with slips in it, so I can always customize the art that's facing the players. And then I want to change the art up every week so it gives subtle hints about what's going on in the mystery or what's going to happen in that session, and see how long it takes them to catch on.
Oh, I did have one more play aid that I wanted to touch on.
All right.
Since since you did mention the 30-second rule, one play aid that might be important to discuss as a group for your social contract for the game is the rule books. Because just because you have a rule book doesn't mean you should be opening it and looking through it all the time. A lot of times the only person at my table who should be opening up the rule book all the time is the spellcaster, because they have to know what their spells do. But otherwise, because the whole losing momentum and grinding the game to a halt when changing music, looking for the right track, also applies for making rulings at the table. If you don't know how it works, if you can't find it within 30 seconds, just make a call and move on. You can always look it up later, or if you have a dedicated rules lawyer at the table, which I always was at my group, which isn't always a bad thing, by the way. Being a rules lawyer just meant I knew if I didn't know the rule, I knew where to find it. So when something came up in my old group in college, my GM was a great storyteller, but he did not know the rules from the backside of his hand. So he would run the games, and when something came up, he's like, hey, how does this work? He would ask me, and I'd be like, all right, well, this is how it works in the rules, but this is the ruling that you made the last time. It's like, okay, well, we'll go with that instead, or what have you. But, don't be digging through the rule. I'm guilty of this. I ran a game a few weeks ago for a Catacon, the online game, and I was digging through the rules a bit too much and not running the game as much as I should. So I apologize to my players. I have a nasty habit of must get it right. So, figure out who's going to be in charge of looking through the rule book.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's something to consider with any play aid, is that any play aid can turn into a distraction.
Yes.
So with like everything, with moderation, grab those play aids, use the hell out of them, enjoy them and what they add to the game. But the moment you feel that they are taking away from somebody's fun at the table, set it aside and move on.
Very good advice. Very sage. Or rosemary if you're allergic.
Well, Jack suggested we discussed character generators, but we're all out of time. We've hit our hour.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we can discuss them real quick, because
sure, let's hit it.
For me, character generators aren't really a play aid, because that happens before game time, not during. So character generators are kind of cool, and when I was playing 4E, the Wizards character creator was great, but most of the games I play are not crunchy enough to need them.
Well, to disagree with you, I have found that most character generators can also serve as character managers. So you can have it open at the table and be Mickeying with different things to generate different numbers on your character sheet. I used Map Tool for almost a year. For every game that I had, I would make up a character sheet in Map Tool so that I could digitally manage everything. I could roll dice just by clicking on the skill or whatever I was doing. So I think character generators could be really awesome for managing your character if they have that ability.
Well, just to disagree with you,
this never happened.
If you have a properly done wiki, you don't need a character generator, because City of Brass has everything that you just mentioned pretty much inbuilt. You can roll dice. You can set it up so, have your attack. So it's like, hey, I need to make a longsword attack. You click one button, it makes your attack roll, adds all your bonuses. You need to make a skill roll. You set it up, click one button. It does everything for you.
But will it recalculate your attribute modifier bonus to your skill should you have a temporary drain to that ability?
If you're doing D&D or Pathfinder, yes, because it's open source and it comes pre-equipped with D20 stuff on there. So you can totally take care of that, yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, maybe that's something to look into.
Hear that, Lucas? I'm sending Devin your way.
He's working on me.
I'm working you over. I'm working you real
Well,
good.
Lucas became a patron of the show after he guested,
Oh,
which was
nice.
surprising and awesome.
Thanks,
So
Lucas.
I'll have to return the favor at some point.
Yep.
Uh, Thank you everyone for joining us. Crystal has put a couple of comments here in Q&A about some great ideas she's got from the episode. Jack wants us to argue some more.
I don't think that's going to happen. Sorry.
It doesn't happen very often, but when it
I mean,
does, we throw digital
it
poker chips at each other.
it doesn't happen often, but when it happens, it happens. I don't know what that's supposed
And
to mean.
Christopher's wrong.
Except when I'm disagreeing with Caleb, then I'm totally right.
No, you're still wrong. Caleb's wrong too.
Well, yes, Caleb's always wrong. It's the way it is.
And if you don't know who Caleb is, he's from the RPG Academy, the flagship program to the RPG Academy network that we're a part of. Very cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. I enjoyed it. We had quite a few listeners and some awesome questions coming in via the Q&A app. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Join us next time. With that, I'll say goodnight and join the frenzy.
Have a good night, y'all. And remember, always check for arguments.